vlog this week, I wanted to show, using my personal circumstances, what it is like when an adult autistic isn't given the help that they need. And the example that I'm using is my housing situation. I have been fighting for 1.5 years to try and change my housing situation. It isn't good, there's lots of issues, but this is me giving you a tour of my house and pointing out all the ways that my house affects my health and safety. We're going to have a little bit of a tour of my house, bearing in mind it's quite messy at the minute. It's more messy than it usually is because I'm kind of putting things in different piles and chucking them around ready to be put away. So there are things on the floor that wouldn't usually be there. And the reason why I'm filming it is because I'm really angry and really frustrated. Currently, 80% of the socks that I own have now gone in the wash, even though they were clean. I tend to put my clean clothes in the spare room, ready to be sorted and put into drawers, hung up, whatever needs to happen to them. And I also have a spare sock drawer in that room in the bedside table, so that when I do the washing, if I end up with spare socks, instead of throwing them in my normal sock drawer in here, I chuck them in there. The next time I do washing, I try and pair them up so that I don't end up with lots of odd socks and throwing socks away. That drawer and that bedside table is near the window in that room, and that room is freezing and there's a damp problem. There is now mould on those socks, so they've had to be put in the wash yet again, all these clean socks, and I've just had to check every single item of clothing that's come out that room for mould. Luckily nothing else is. Bearing in mind that I have treated, since I've moved in, I've treated every single window in this house with mould killer. Here's one of the issues I'm waiting on to be fixed. Which happened when earlier this year there was a bit of wind and a bit of rain, a tile had slipped or broke. It ended up being about 3 or 4 weeks before somebody actually came to sort that. That's 3 or 4 weeks of rain, which has left that damp patch, which still hasn't been sorted, and I've reported it 3 times. I can't have anybody sleeping in here because this radiator here doesn't work. Also, when I moved in, this bedroom had an infestation of bed bugs. So this house was never professionally cleaned before I moved in. However, part of my contract, I have to have it professionally cleaned and show receipts before I move out. Let's just take a look at the loveliness of that. This is the conditions that I'm having to live in because my landlady refuses to do anything about it. Also, this window is either very, very old double glazing, and the cat likes to be in there. Look at the state of that. It's very old double glazing, or it is actually single glazed. Up in that corner and up in that corner there is actually a gap in this window, so this window is actually not safe, and this is why I'm having problems with mould and problems with the cold in this house, because I've got substandard windows. Right, this is the worst room of them all for how messy it is, so you'll see a lot of mess in the background here, but I've kind of just stored stuff in here because I've got a lot of display items and things like that I've not put around the house because I don't want them getting destroyed by the mould in the different rooms. There's actually water on the inside of this window at the bottom. That's actually moisture coming from the window. It's all up the edges here. Again, I have another broken thing that doesn't go down, and as you can see, that's missing, so that can't be locked, and you can see the state of that. A key probably wouldn't fit in it. There's all the mould around the window. This has been treated with mould cleaner. This door, as you can see, is very, very hard to close, and then it doesn't actually stay closed, it will just come open. There's a gap in the top there as well of this door. This is my tiny, tiny bath that luckily I only just fit into because I'm only 5'2", but as you can see, none of this has been sorted since the landlady came when I first moved in to report this. That hasn't been regrouted, that hasn't been regrouted, and this is probably the least amount of mould, but I don't know if you can see that because it's a little bit darker in here, but it is all around the window. It's actually in the ceiling. And in this room, this is where the bath hasn't been finished, that big gap's been left. This was all meant to be blocked in. So where the tiles end here, there was meant to be something placed in here going straight down just to make this a little bit safer, particularly for my cat, but to stop the moisture potentially dripping down. And then this damp that was left over from before I moved in, that hasn't been sorted out either. And I'll show you the effects of what's happened, because a little bit of that's been fixed. So this bit of sealant here is basically all that the landlady's husband has done. And he put that there because there was a big gap and the water was dripping down. Right, I've turned the kitchen light on and I've got the hallway light on, so hopefully you can see this. This is what I've been living with since I moved in. Basically what the landlady did before showing the house is paint over all this section. So since I've been moving in and it's been affected by more damp, this just keeps flaking off. And then you can see all this kind of yellow on the floor there is all what keeps flaking off. So I'm constantly having to hoover this up because anything that is wrong is just painted over in this house. You probably won't see this because it's dark outside. This is my kitchen window and this is old double glazing, and along the top here that you might not be able to see is condensation. And that around there is actually in between the panes of glass. The double glazing is so old, there's now gaps in between the panes of glass. So that needs replacing, and she's refused to do that. So cold in this kitchen that by the time it's dinner time, if I was to eat in this kitchen, I can see my breath. And this is one of the reasons why. I have this cupboard under my stairs, and you can see the gap in the door there. So this door doesn't work properly. This is the cupboard, it's got a bit of storage stuff in it. You can see all the paint down in that corner there, where there's all the damp on that wall there, where it's just not been sorted out, it's just been painted over. Paint coming off everywhere. So trying to close this door, it just, you can see how much it wobbles everywhere. So after attempt number 3, I've finally got the door closed, but there's still that big gap in it, which I'm now worried about the cat getting in there. So the reason why it's so cold in here as well is because there's actually a vent in that cupboard to outside. So basically, freezing cold winter, and it feels like you're sitting outside because all that cold and all that cold temperature is coming into the house. There is no point me trying to heat this room when the heat is just going to escape. Now, if this had a decent door on it, that would block that cold out. Don't mind this cupboard being cold, but if it had an accessible door that was thick and it didn't have all the gaps, then it wouldn't be freezing cold in this kitchen. I don't use this room because it's freezing cold. Now, I had a assessment earlier, so I had somebody round, so I put this heating on and I put it on 6, which is the maximum. I had that on for about a good hour and a half. It still wasn't warm in here. Again, in the corner, there is a vent to outside. The only crown and glory is the fact that it's got a fairly new door on it. That there is my electric and gas cupboard with my meters in it. That has my fuse boxes in it and everything. And you can obviously see this damp. This has been reported 3 times. Still nothing done about it. 3 times reported. Also, this is that you can see a wire. I know it's covered, but it's still a wire. All this damp here, and this window, which looks more like a single pane window, which has some mould around it, but this is an inadequate window. You can probably hear the traffic, and if I come round the other side, you can see that that is also broken as well. So I have the front window into my house is a single paned broken window. We're back in the main bedroom. Let me show you. So this is the window that has been fixed twice. When I first moved in, this window had nearly an inch gap down up here in this corner. This is from the previous tenants who have obviously had something burnt it. So you've got a big burn in the actual seal. That is not safe. But you've got a handle here that will not go down. So this window cannot be locked. And this window is drafty. There's also the cost efficiency of living in this house. While the rent might be cheap, I'm actually paying more out than if I rented somewhere more expensive because of how much it potentially is going to cost me in bills. So currently I live out of my bedroom. I eat all my meals in here, I do all my YouTube stuff in here, I just live in here because it costs about £2 a day to run this one heater. This heater doesn't regulate temperature properly. It's either blasting out and it's roasting, or it's not putting out anything, it's freezing cold. It is only ever on 3. I never change the thermostat. So it should be putting out consistent temperature. It's not doing that. No point in being in the living room. It's way too noisy. I can't get any work done. I can't film in there. I can't relax and settle, which is obviously quite imperative when you're autistic. So I'm living out of this room currently. If one radiator is going to cost me £2 to run, heat my whole house would cost me £10 a day. That is £70 a week. That is £280 a month. I don't know anybody that can afford to just waste £280 a month. So I wanted to film this and show you guys the kind of conditions I'm living in when I say that I don't have much money and I talk about my heating and things like that. This is what I am talking about. The landlady is coming on Wednesday with her husband. I don't hold out much hope, but I'm going to have paper and pen on me and I'm going to write down everything they say, and if they're refusing to do things, then I'm going to take it further. The reason why it's taken me this long so far is I'm doing this on my own, and I've been struggling to fight this while fighting for diagnosis, while awaiting HCHD diagnosis, while suffering with illness. It has been way too much and I've not been able to cope with facing this. I've just been putting up with living in one bedroom and paying rent on a whole house I can't use. So as you can see, the situation isn't good. That is what my house looks like, and the majority of these problems have been around since before I moved in. And the reason why I'm still living in this house is because I have received no help. I have been reaching out to various different places to just be rejected or given very basic, vague advice. I need to wait and see what happens when the landlady visits, and hopefully I'll be able to give you guys an update after that. Until then, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.